China's Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin wrapped up their two-day summit on Tuesday. They used the opportunity to strengthen their political and economic relationship as they become strained with the rest of the world. Xi called his visit to Moscow, quote, a new chapter in the partnership between Russia and China. Meanwhile, Putin said the talks were successful and that the two countries have never been closer. That's not great for the United States. And for more on that, we are joined by Miles Yu. He's a senior fellow and director of the China Center at the Hudson Institute. You joined us before these talks. We talked about the lack of credibility when Xi was calling for peace talks. He's now called for peace and responsible dialogue. But can't he be right that we should have peace and responsible dialogue while also being a terrible messenger for that?
Yeah, he's right. We should have the peace, but you cannot play a peacemaker while you are in the capital of the perpetrator of war and destruction of another sovereign country. So this is why this effort really doesn't sound really that credible.
That is one of the issues with credibility, right? Is he would even refuse to call it a war, and that is kind of the Russian line of thinking. So if you're trying to stop to get peace, you probably need to acknowledge that something is a war, don't you?
Absolutely, and also you have to really condemn the culprit for the war, and that's Vladimir Putin, right? So no, as a matter of fact, this visit actually has less to do with Ukraine and more to do with solidifying a anti-U.S., anti-West united front, because bulk of their discussion and their joint statement is not about Ukraine. It's really about this much greater alliance of replacing the United States as the leader of a much larger global democratic alliance.
Well, Miles, whenever I disagree with someone, I always try to see things from their perspective. And so let me ask you this. In the United States, we're pro-United States, hopefully. But we are kind of the hegemon in the world. We kind of run things on the global stage and have for a long time. China believes it's in our shadow, and they're looking to Russia to help them get out of our shadow. So I wonder if they have a point here that they should not be in the shadow of the United States, that they are a power in their own right, and that they don't need to be second to the United States. Or can there only be one top dog, and we're it right now?
It's not a one top dog. It's a mistake to label United States as hegemon. China and Russia always try to blame the United States as the ultimate sort of disruptor of the peace that they want to see. The fact is, the United States is just one of the 141 countries that condemn Russia and demand Russia to withdraw from Ukraine. So it may be a smokescreen to basically to blame the United States as if the whole world is ruled by the United States. We have a shared value with the vast majority of the rest of the world. The only reason why China and Russia blame the United States all the time is because we're the only country of consequence. We have the capability and we have the strategic clarity to basically to hold the aggressors accountable. That includes the two most aggressive nations in the world, Russia and China.
Well, like I said, I try to see things from other people's perspective, but that doesn't mean that it holds any sort of credibility, as we've discussed. Now, I did find it interesting, too, there was no mention of military aid here. And I don't know if that means that there was specifically no military aid pledged, but they didn't talk about that. So what do you make of the lack of mention of military aid, specifically as far as lethal weapons go, which is what the United States and Ukraine are very worried about?
Well, China obviously doesn't want to talk about this. And if you look at the statement, joint statement, if you look at the news report by both countries, the role of Russia and China has changed in a very subtle way. That is, up to now, Russia sort of has been playing hard to get, and in the strategic alliance that China wants to have. That is because there are many traditional allies of Russia in Asia, like India, like Vietnam. And so China basically, those countries were always adversaries of China because China have a lot of territorial disputes with this country. And China fought two wars, one against India, one against Vietnam in the past. So now this role has changed because Russia is in a much worse shape than before. So in reality, Russia has become a junior partner of China. So China is now feels more robust in providing kind of a support for Russia. On the other hand, to openly talk about military aid, lethal aid to Russia is going to basically invoke a lot of sanctions against China. And Chinese economy cannot really sustain systemic Western sanctions as promised.
So if they're going to do it, they're going to have to do it in secret and make sure we and the rest of the world don't find out about it. That's Miles Yu from the China Center at the Hudson Institute. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation in your cable lineup. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-based, unbiased coverage.